Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here at Anant Corp. Today's webinar, we're going to cover connecting Apache Spark and DataStax Astra, and we're going to connect them using the Spark-Shell. This is going to be a series where we touch upon connecting Spark and Astra. Today, we're just going to focus on connecting it and just seeing that we can uh, get our data through Spark. Next week, we're going to cover how to run a job, and in that, we're going to introduce SBT and Scala and Spark Submit. But this week, we're just going to focus on connecting it quickly and easily, and also showing you how you can run or use the data frame API and the SQL. All right. So a little about me. My name is Arpan Patel. Oh, sorry. Before I get there, a little housekeeping. If you have any questions, please direct them into the chat, uh, and I will get to them at a good stopping point. And if you're watching this on YouTube at a later point in time, you can leave questions in the comment section, and we'll get to them when we can. So back to about me. My name is Arpan Patel, and I'm an apprentice here at Anant. My last two series that I did 2 series ago was doing SQL and reporting on Apache Cassandra with open source tools. And there we covered how to connect and do SQL and reporting on Cassandra using Presto, using Spark, using open source notebooks, and then also using open source BI tools. If you're interested in any of those, you can click these links when the YouTube video goes live, and the slide deck will be on there. And then also, if you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/AnantCorp, you can also watch the webinar companies that are there. And then my last series that I did was exploring DataStax Astra's API. So we actually live built a shopping list app using the REST API that DataStax Astra provides us, so that we could kind of bypass a server backend and directly communicate our front end with Astra and our data there. So the webinar link for that is linked there, but also, again, you can find it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/AnantCorp. The GitHub repo for that, and there's a templated version, and there's also a non-refactored completed version if you wanted to take a look at the code itself. It's built using React and JavaScript. Also, the accompanying blog and SlideShare for that is linked there as well. In addition to the REST API, we also covered the GraphQL API, where we used Postman and played with the queries and mutations that you can do directly to your Astra database using a tool like Postman. All right, so getting into this week's webinar, a little about Apache Spark if you're not very familiar with it. It's a unified analytics engine for large-scale data processing. It achieves high performance for both batch and streaming data using state-of-the-art DAG scheduler, query optimizer, and a physical query engine. It offers over 80 high-level operators that make it easy to build parallel apps, and you can use it interactively with the Scala, Python, R, or SQL shells. We'll be using the Scala shell, and we'll also, again, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be using Scala when we're running the Spark job. In addition to the shells, you also have other libraries. So like when I mentioned the data frames, you also have MLlib for machine learning, GraphX, and streaming, and then you can combine these as necessary in your applications. And you can run Spark in the standalone cluster mode, which we will be doing, and it's outlined in the repo, and we'll take a look at that when we get to the demo. And then other technologies, if you want to put it on a tool like Mesos or Kubernetes and then push it to the cloud. And then with that, you can access all kinds of data sources. We'll be focusing on Apache Cassandra in the form of DataStax Astra. And for the demo, we're going to be using Gitpod. If you're not familiar with what Gitpod is, it's an open source Kubernetes application providing fully baked collaborative development environments in our browser. The reason we're using Gitpod is so that you can quickly test this on your own without having to worry about OS differences or potential issues that might come up. So if you just want to learn, get used to it, and then try it on your own machines, you can, but Gitpod is the easy way that you can just quickly open it up and get it running. And you can seamlessly integrate with GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. So I'll show you that when we get to the demo slide, how easy it is just to start a repository in Gitpod. The IDE itself is based on the open source Eclipse Thea project, and with Gitpod, you get pre-built dev environments, so you can use Gitpod Docker files and YAML files to essentially say, kind of start your Gitpod instance with pre-loaded items in certain ways you want it. So kind of how if you have a Docker image, you can essentially do the same thing with Gitpod. And again, like in that sense, you have integrated Docker build. You have once we get to the demo, you'll notice that it kind of looks like VS Code, but you can drag and drop. You can use, import all these different kinds of VS Code extensions themselves, and they have full Linux terminals as well. And a couple other little features they add is you can have integrated code reviews. You can take snapshots of your dev environment and let others create clones from that. You can live collaborate with team members on your specific environment. And then also their CLI can help you automate your experience. All right, I'll pause here to see if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on to the demo. Okay, looks like no questions. So we'll go ahead and get started with the demo. So I have the repo, so when the slide share goes up or in the YouTube description itself, you can go ahead and just quickly go to this repo. And also, like I mentioned, when we're starting a repository, a GitHub repository in Gitpod, all you need to do is if you have your account authenticated with Gitpod, is say https://gitpod.io/pound and then whatever the repo URL is. So say if we have multiple branches in our repository, you can just append and copy and paste the URL of that branch and add it right after the pound symbol. And that's how easy it is to spin up a Gitpod environment. So let's go ahead and get started. To respect everyone's time, I have already spun up the environment for us. Granted, because the files aren't that large, it shouldn't take too long. Gitpod provides a preview mode of readmes, so we can look at it like that, but I'll just be using the repository itself. So when you come to the repository, you can automatically just go ahead and click that button. And that button will open this repository directly in Gitpod, but we'll go to the first step, which would be connecting Apache Spark and DataStax Astra. Like I mentioned, we're going to run an Apache Spark job on an Astra database next week, but let's focus on connecting it using Spark-Shell. So going through the README for this repository, we're just going to go ahead and go to our code. Actually, first we can run this first statement. So essentially what we're going to do in this first curl, we're going to download and extract Apache Spark 3.0.1 into our connect directory. So we're just going to go ahead and go into our terminal from the root level, and we're just going to paste that in. And we're just going to hit run. And so while that downloads, we are going to look at the other steps that we're going to be running. So step 2, we're going to run Apache Spark in standalone cluster mode with one worker. And I'll show you how that works with Gitpod. And then we are going to download our Astra Secure Connect bundle. If you have not already worked with DataStax Astra, you can go ahead and click on this link here and check out our repository called Cassandra.API. It's essentially an open source application for DataStax Astra. It has a front end, a back end, and the back end there is a Python and Node.js version of the same API, and a C# version is coming soon. But essentially this, if you go through the setup, it shows you how to create an account. There's a 5 gig free tier, so you can easily just spin up Cassandra in the cloud and play with it all you want, and you have a 5 gig buffer. So let's go back to the README, and then Once we do that, we are going to use this DataStax notebook file that I've already created for you, and we're just going to use that to create our table in our Astra key space, and then seed it, and then we are going to use Spark to read that data. All right. Spark should have been downloaded, and it has. So if we go to step 2, we are going to cd connect. At this point, I'll go to the connect readme, and then I will click on preview. How do I do the preview file? Forget how to make it do the preview. Okay, so we'll just come back here. So we are going to cd into our Spark directory, and then from there we are going to start our master and one worker. So we're just going to /sbin start master, and when that runs, we'll see this little notification pop up in the right hand corner saying that a service has been started. So if we click on port 8080, because that is our UI for the master, we can hit open browser, and when you do that, it's essentially our localhost 8080, but it's on this Gitpod environment. So we're going to go ahead and copy this master URL, and we're going to use that to connect our worker to our master. So we are going to do /sbin start, and then we are going to paste in the master's URL. All right, so now if we go back to our UI and refresh, we should see a worker. And we do. Great. So now if we go back to the README, we are going to download our Astra Secure Connect bundle. So if we go into Astra, I already have a database up and running. So if I hit connect, they changed the format a little bit, but all you need to do to get the Connect bundle is right here. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll just get this US East 1 Secure Connect bundle. And you just click that and it downloads it for you. So where are we going to put that? We are going to put it into our Connect directory. So all we need to do, the really cool thing about Gitpod, we can drag and drop. So if I drag this and drop it into the Connect directory, I just got to rename it. So we want the absolute name. I have a bunch of copies of it because I've been working on some other stuff with Astra. So now our Connect bundle is in. And so that's essentially our auth packet that Astra uses to talk to other drivers, to talk to Spark, to talk to other tools. So now we are going to download the DataStax Studio notebook and run the cells in Astra Studio. So you can go ahead and just click this file, and then it's public, so you can just go ahead and download it. And then we will go into our Astra Studio instance, click on Studio, and then all we need to do is to drag and drop it. That's how easy it is. It just makes our life easier. So now we can, as mentioned in the README, I think I lost it. Let me reopen it. So if we go to the README, we're going to run the cells. And when running the cells, one thing to keep in mind is if your key space has no key space or has something else selected, make sure you select the correct key space for what you're using. So my key space is called test. So we're going to create a table. In our schema, we're just going to make sure we don't have anything. Let's go ahead and hit run local quorum, and we should see our table come through. So yes, we see our leaves table. And this leaves table is essentially a way to track links and their URLs. We give them tags, so that way if we want to sort through items, we can. User ID could be whoever added the tag. Reading time, that could be something that's reading time. Language, depending on the language. And then the ID associated in the URL. and the title. So now that we have that, we're just going to insert one record just to make this easy to visualize, because obviously if you're working with something like Spark, you're going to be working with potentially like big data, or just in terms of data engineering, you're working with a lot more than just one line. But again, this is just so you can learn how to connect Apache Spark and DataStax Astra as a getting started. So we're just going to go ahead and enter one record, and we're just going to confirm that the record's there, and we do. So this is our Cassandra API, like I mentioned, the open source application for DataStax Astra. And so now what we can do is go back to the README and move on to step 5. So now we are ready to run Spark-Shell and connect to our Astra database. So we will go ahead, like step 1, make sure we are in the Spark directory, and we are. And then we will be running this statement. So here it's templated. So what you'll need to do is just copy and paste it somewhere so that you can edit it as needed. So I just have this Notepad online app that I just quickly found with the Google search. So in here, we are passing in, because we're not running a job, we need to supply the Spark environment to have the Spark Cassandra connector. Otherwise, it won't be able to read the data or connect with Spark and Cassandra. So this master URL, we'll just go to our master UI and just copy and paste that. Go ahead and paste that there. And then our files, this is already for you. So depending, if you do this locally, your path might be a little bit different. But because I've already given this for you, this workspace Apache, this is just like our workspace is like our environment root level. And then we have the main directory, and then we have our connect directory. And then here you'll need to say secure connect. My database is called demo, right? Because remember how we dragged and dropped it into this connect directory. And then we are going to go back to the Notepad, do the same for this config option. We are just going to set this as demo. So a little funky thing that I had to learn by playing with it. So when you're using the Spark Cassandra connection config cloud path, it didn't actually require the full path. It just needed that actual, just the file name. So secure connect your database name .zip. So then for auth, my username is just username. My password is just password. And then we're just going to pass in some extensions that we may or may not need, but just know that you can pass other things in. So all we need to do is just copy and paste this into our terminal. Because again, remember, we are, or I didn't mention it, but we are already saying /bin Spark-Shell. So all you need to do is just copy and paste this, insert your credentials, and then just paste it back into your terminal. So if we go in, and I'm going to maximize this terminal because we don't need any of the code. So we'll just go ahead and paste that and then hit enter. And then you might see some errors come up, but it's fine. You'll see the Spark option come through. And again, right here, this is where that Spark Cassandra connector package we passed in. That's what's happening. It's downloading modules. So now we have our Spark app, Spark-Shell. So this is going to be in Scala. If we go to our Spark master UI and we refresh it, we should see our running application, and we do. We started it however many seconds ago, and it's the Spark-Shell. So within there, we can access Spark context, and we can also access Spark session. So if we go back to the README, you see that we have two ways we can do it, and we're just going to go ahead and test both ways. So the first one is using the Cassandra format and read. So what we'll go ahead and do is copy and paste this in. Just go to our terminal, paste. It's loading our Cassandra into our data frame. Oh, sorry, forgot about that. There is an error there. I forgot. So right here, there is a your key space option, so you'll need to put in your key space. Um, you'll need to say, so mine is called test, as I mentioned before. So we'll just go ahead and copy this back in. There we go. And so we see our schema. Remember how we created our ID, language, reading time, tags, title, URL, user ID. And now let's confirm that our data is there. There we go. So if we look in our studio, our title is Cassandra API, URL, tags. And if we go to our Spark-Shell, back in Gitpod, we see our tags, GitHub, Cassandra API, GitHub. So with that, using Spark-Shell, we have connected Apache Spark and DataStax Astra. And now there's another way we can do it. So if we want to use Spark SQL, if we go to the README, so what we're doing here is we're setting my catalog as kind of like a schema. We're just saying set my database as my catalog. So my database on Astra is called demo. We're just going to be setting it as my catalog, and we'll access it that way. So we'll go ahead and paste that because we'll also need to add in our key spaces and your specific key space. So mine would be show tables from my catalog.test, and so that ideally should show the leaves table, and then we're going to say use it, and then we're going to say select all, and so ideally we should get back similar data. So we'll go ahead and copy and paste that into our terminal. There we go. So now we were able to use the DataFrame API and also use the Spark SQL to talk to our DataStax Astra database using Spark-Shell. And that will go ahead and wrap up our demo for this week's webinar. Thank you for joining us here at Anant. We work with scalable fast data with main focus in Cassandra, Spark, and Kafka. If you need any help or if you want to ally in your Cassandra platform, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach us at anant.us. You can email us at solutions@anant.us, or you can call us at the number listed. Again, like I mentioned, this week was just focusing on connecting Spark and Astra using Spark-Shell. Next week, we're actually going to use Scala and SBT to run a job using Spark Submit. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I will open the floor up one more time for questions to see if anyone has to say anything. And you can go ahead and direct those questions to the chat. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave questions in the comment section and we will try to get to them as soon as we can. All right, looks like no questions. Again, thank you for joining us here for connecting Apache Spark and DataStax Astra using Spark-Shell. Again, like I mentioned, we'll be focusing on running an Apache Spark job against our DataStax Astra database next week. So hope you look forward to that. And If you need help on your Cassandra platform or you want to ally on your Cassandra platform, don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Anant. You can contact us at anant.us, or you can email us at solutions@anant.us. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.